tastes differ, however, the artiste concluded philosophically. Then he changed both the timbre of his voice and its intonation, and announced gaily and resoundingly. And now for the next number on our program, Nicanor Ivanovich Bozoy, chairman of a house committee and director of a dietetic kitchen. Nicanor Ivanovich, on stage. General applause greeted the artiste. The surprised Nicanor Ivanovich goggled his eyes, while the master of ceremonies, blocking the glare of the footlights with his hand, located him among the sitters and tenderly beckoned him on stage with his finger. And Nicanor Ivanovich, without knowing how, found himself on stage. Beams of colored light struck his eyes from in front and below, which at once caused the house and the audience to sink into darkness. "Well, Nicanor Ivanovich, set us a good example, sir," the young artiste said soulfully. "Turn over your currency." Silence ensued. Nicanor Ivanovich took a deep breath and quietly began to speak. "I swear to God that I..." But before he had time to get the words out, the whole house burst into shouts of indignation. Nicanor Ivanovich got confused and fell silent. "As far as I understand you," said the program announcer, "you wanted to swear to God that you haven't got any currency?" And he gazed sympathetically at Nicanor Ivanovich. "Exactly right, I haven't," replied Nicanor Ivanovich. "Right," responded the artiste, "and excuse the indiscretion, where did the $400 that were found in the privy of the apartment of which you and your wife are the sole inhabitants come from?" "Magic," someone in the dark house said with obvious irony. "Exactly right, magic," Nicanor Ivanovich timidly replied, vaguely addressing either the artiste or the dark house, and he explained, "Unclean powers, the checkered interpreter stuck me with them." And again the house raised an indignant roar. When silence came, the artiste said, "See what La Fontaine fables I have to listen to. Stuck him with $400. Now, all of you here are currency dealers, so I address you as experts. Is that conceivable?" "We're not currency dealers," various offended voices came from the theater, "but, no, it's not conceivable." "I'm entirely of the same mind," the artiste said firmly, "and let me ask you, what is it that one can be stuck with?" "A baby," someone cried from the house. Absolutely correct, the program announcer confirmed. A baby, an anonymous letter, a tract, an infernal machine, anything else, but no one will stick you with $400, for such idiots don't exist in nature. And turning to Nicanor Ivanovich, the artiste added reproachfully and sorrowfully, "You've upset me, Nicanor Ivanovich, and I was counting on you." So, our number didn't come off. Whistles came from the house, addressed to Nicanor Ivanovich. "He's a currency dealer," they shouted from the house, "and we innocent ones have to suffer for the likes of him." "Don't scold him," the master of ceremonies said softly, "he'll repent." And turning to Nicanor Ivanovich, his blue eyes filled with tears, he added, "Well, Nicanor Ivanovich, you may go to your place." After that, the artiste rang the bell and announced loudly, "Intermission, you blackguards." The shaken Nicanor Ivanovich, who unexpectedly for himself had become a participant in some sort of theater program, again found himself in his place on the floor. Here he dreamed that the house was plunged in total darkness, and fiery red words leapt out on the walls. "Turn over your currency." Then the curtain opened again and the master of ceremonies invited. "I call Sergei Gerardovich Dunshall to the stage." Dunshall turned out to be a fine-looking but rather unkempt man of about 50. Sergei Gerardovich, the master of ceremonies addressed him, "You've been sitting here for a month and a half now, stubbornly refusing to turn over the currency you still have, while the country is in need of it, and you have no use for it whatsoever. And still you persist. You're an intelligent man, you understand it all perfectly well, and yet you don't want to comply with me." "To my regret, there is nothing I can do, since I have no more currency," Dunshall calmly replied. "Don't you at least have some diamonds?" asked the artiste. "No diamonds either." The artiste hung his head and pondered, then clapped his hands. A middle-aged lady came out from the wings, fashionably dressed, that is, in a collarless coat and a tiny hat. The lady looked worried, but Dunshall glanced at her without moving an eyebrow. "Who is this lady?" the program announcer asked Dunshall. "That is my wife," Dunshall replied with dignity and looked at the lady's long neck with a certain repugnance. "We have troubled you, Madame Dunshall," the master of ceremonies adverted to the lady, with regard to the following, we wanted to ask you, does your husband have any more currency? He turned it all over the other time, Madame Dunchel replied nervously. Right, said the artiste, well, then, if it's so, it's so. If he turned it all over, then we ought to part with Sergei Gerardovich immediately, there's nothing else to do. If you wish, Sergei Gerardovich, you may leave the theater. And the artiste made a regal gesture. Dunchel turned calmly and with dignity, and headed for the wings. Just a moment. The master of ceremonies stopped him. Allow me on parting to show you one more number from our program. And again he clapped his hands. The black backdrop parted, and onto the stage came a young beauty in a ball gown, holding in her hands a golden tray on which lay a fat wad tied with candy box ribbon and a diamond necklace from which blue, yellow and red fire leapt in all directions. Dunchel took a step back and his face went pale. The house froze.